What's going on, everybody? This is the video walkthrough for the fish populations assignment. The fish population assignment is just kind of a generic standalone document where we interact a few fish living in a pond and we kind of follow their population trends through 5 generations, look at a graph, and then try to make a little bit of an inference on what has happened, what could happen, what will happen. So just going through this, pretty straightforward. The fish population doubles each generation. And this really is a thing. If we were to do this in class, we would be taking those red candy Swedish fish and trying to organize them in a certain way. But in this case, we're just going to be taking our virtual fish, drag and dropping them. So in the first generation, we have 2 fish. And these 2 fish reproduce. They have 2 offspring. And so in the second generation, we are going to have 4 fish. And then in the third generation, if we have 4 fish and each of those have 2 more offspring, then we'll have a total of 8 fish. And then if we have 8 fish in this generation, the following generation will have 16 fish. What we start to have happen now, though, is when each of these fish happen to have offspring, we get to a problem. So this should have 32. However, if we look at the pond grid where each fish needs so much space, it is a 5 by 5, which is 25. So if we start filling up, we only have room for a few more, for 9 more. So what's going to happen to the rest of these fish? Well, that's where we're going to try to have this investigation lead us. So looking at the generations and looking at the graph, the number of fish, you need to use your skills reading a graph and being able to interpret which of these 4 graphs is correct. So in the first generation, we have 2. So here are the generations on the bottom. In the first generation, we have 2. And then you look at the next succeeding generations. And without kind of comparing each number to the graph and like where it leads, if we just take a step back and kind of generalize, okay, each generation, there's 5 generations. And each generation, this number doubles and gets bigger. And it does not change. So by looking at that, we can kind of estimate which graph is the correct one. We would put that answer right here. And again, we're just looking at trends between these. So this trend is moving up, this trend is moving up then down, this trend is moving down, and this trend is moving down then back up. And when we're talking about species, population, and just those different limiting factors, all of these graphs will actually apply and be different parts of that dynamic. But for now, we're looking at the upward trend. The next 2 questions, the first one, what might happen to the next generation? This is kind of just an open-ended, what do you think is going to happen in this following generation? Well, we're going to run out of room. So there's not going to be enough space for all these fish. And then what are 3 factors that might affect the individuals the pond can support? How many are in there? Well, obviously space. But if there's too many fish, just as much as there were too many people at your place that you live at, if you keep on inviting twice as many people, the next time there's probably going to be a little bit of competition for space, for food, for water, just competition between you and other people to be able to do certain things. Hot water, if we look at a human example, hot water being able to take a shower, take a bath. In the case of the fish, it might be the cleanliness of the water, as fish don't have a plumbing system in the pond. So those are all different things that you could put. And that about does it. That is the lesson, fish populations. Get it done, turn it in. See ya.